quality of life, House Democrats are on duty, House Republicans are on vacation. Shame on them for being on vacation all across the country and across the world on the eve of a government shutdown. We're on duty, they're on vacation. They're on vacation because they'd rather shut the government down than protect the health care of the American people. That's unfathomable. That's unacceptable. That's unconscionable, and that's un-American. Do your job.
President Trump, for his part, is blaming Democrats.
How many federal workers do you plan to lay off?
Well, we may do a lot, and that's only because of the Democrats. And as you know, they want to be able to take care of people that have come into our country illegally, and no system can handle that.
The brewing shutdown could be like none before it, as Washington struggles over presidential power and how the government spends your money. CNN Chief Congressional Correspondent Manu Raju is on Capitol Hill. Manu, what are you hearing?
Things are very dire right now, and the real expectation pretty much from everyone here that we are going to experience the first federal government shutdown since 2018 into 2019. That lasted for 35 days. That was the longest in the history of this country, and the impacts of this one could be severe, with so many federal workers potentially being either fired or laid off, government services also being dried up, at least temporarily, and the question will be, how long will it last, and what could ultimately get out of it? The two parties now taking diametrically opposite positions. Republicans are calling for a straight extension of government funding over the next 7 weeks. They want no additions to it at all. Democrats are trying to add on changes on healthcare in particular. They want to reverse the spending cuts that were enacted to the Medicaid program under Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. They also want to extend expiring subsidies over the Obamacare. Those subsidies set to expire at year's end. They want to constrain Donald Trump's ability to cut federal spending without the consent of Congress. None of those will fly with Republicans in the Republican-controlled Senate. And the Republicans plan to put on the floor today that 7-week stopgap bill through November 21st with no strings attached. The question at this moment, will any Democrats break ranks? There will need to be at least 7, probably 8 Democrats who will be needed to advance legislation, advance that bill on the floor of the Senate. Today, I had a chance to ask some of those swing Democratic senators, those ones who voted for a similar stopgap bill in March that extended government funding through the end of September, whether they would vote for this plan. One of those senators, John Fetterman, said he said yes. Others would not say.
If you really want to fundamentally change policies, win elections, and then you have the ability to do those things. Yeah, I mean, isn't that fundamental the truth?
And right now, there are Democrats overreaching.
I think it's a noble outcome with the wrong way. Again, this is. Why can't I? I mean, I agree that it takes the tax credits, but what they're willing to do. I'm not gonna vote to shut the government down. It's wrong. More chaos is the last thing our nation needs.
Who voted for the CR back in March? Why not vote for this one?
Well, you'll see what I do in a little bit.
You voted for the March CR. Are you going to vote for this one? Now, Senate Republican leaders hope that senators like Maggie Addison, Gary Peters, and others who voted for that plan back in March will do the same in September, right now on September 30th at the eve of this deadline. If they do not, if this government does shut down, expect the Republican leadership to put that bill on the floor time and time again and try to get those Democrats to buckle under pressure as the government is shut down. The question, though, Wolf, is will they stand with the Democratic leadership who say it's time to reverse those health care cuts, who are worried about the impact on people's insurance premiums and say that needs to be acted upon now? The question is, can they maintain that unity at this perilous time for the country? Wolf?
Yeah, it's a huge, huge moment right now, and we'll watch it very, very closely.
All right.
Manu Raju, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Manu. We appreciate it. And joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell of Michigan. She is the chair of the House Democratic Policy and Communications Committee. Congresswoman, good to see you. Is it a foregone conclusion at this point that the government will shut down? And if so, how long do you think it would happen?
Pam, it's good to be with you, and nothing's foregone. We have a few more hours, Democratic leadership has made it clear that they're ready and willing to sit at a table and talk and compromise. I mean, do you realize that yesterday was the very first meeting that President Trump has had with the Democratic leader in the Senate and the House? You got to be willing to talk, and they're very serious issues that have no time related to them. So, you know, anything's possible. This is Washington, D.C. under President Trump. So if they come to the table and talk, anything's possible, but they have not been very willing to have bipartisan discussions.
What specifically do Democrats need from the White House and Republicans to keep the government open?
Look, I think people have been very clear. I think that even in that report, there probably is more it's more expansive than what people really want. Let me be clear on one issue. We are fighting for the health care of the American people. October 1, which is tomorrow, which is when the new budget would begin or expires, insurance rates are going to go out to people on the Affordable Care Act. The exchange opens on November 1, and the tax credits expire at the end of December. We have already seriously hurt and had an impact with the Medicaid cuts of the big, I'll not use a word on television of what I think of it, bill. I have hospitals in my state and hospitals across the country are close to closing because of what that happened. Now I'm going to take a couple in my district, 60 years old, both of them. If we don't expand their affordable tax credits, they make $82,000 between the two of them. Their health insurance is going to go up $11,250, a 165% increase. We are talking about millions of Americans and their ability to buy health insurance. That's worth fighting for. And I know that the Republicans would think so too. But if we don't do it now, it's not going to happen. And we need guardrails so that what we do pass actually gets spent. Because we have seen this president do pocket, whatever you want to call them, in executive orders that have taken money that has been appropriated from school lunches, from veterans, from law enforcement. So there are things that are really worth fighting for.
So let me just follow up with you because you're making it clear it's the healthcare subsidies that is a huge sticking point here. Former Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich wrote in this opinion piece that, quote, if Americans wanted Democrats' prescription for healthcare, their party's favorability rating wouldn't be languishing at around 30%. And less than a year ago, they wouldn't have handed control of the executive and legislative branches of government to Republicans. What is your response to that?
Look, I'm going to say to Gingrich, who is a friend, and we've had many intense discussions, but there are a whole lot of people, the Democrats do a great job in messaging. Were we talking about these issues the way we should have? Was I telling people last year that we had problems? You know I was, just like I did in 2016. But a lot of people, I've been in those union halls, I'm talking to people who are really being hurt. I go in the hospitals, I go to the community health centers, and people that voted the way they did last year did not know what was going to happen to them. Affordability President Trump promised to lower costs on food, on health care, on housing, energy. He was going to reduce costs on energy by 50%. They've all gone up. And health care is one of the most important things to every American. When you're sick, you need to be able to go to the doctor and afford your medicine.
I want to play what one Democratic Senator, John Fetterman, told my colleague, Mani Raja. We heard a little bit of what he said earlier. This is an extension of that. Let's listen.
Right now, it's like you're running the risk of plunging our nation into chaos. Millions and millions of lives will be upended. The president has a lot of levers he could pull. This is one we could pull, but why would we pull that lever? Because that allows him to pull a lot more levers. I mean, I think that would be the ideal outcome for Project 2025.
So do you have any concerns that the president could use a shutdown to assume more control over the federal government and perhaps enact elements of his agenda that Democrats oppose? Could this backfire for you?
I'm going to say several things. One, I'm already watching a country in chaos, and people are tired and worn down, and they don't know what to fight. And I think the American people want to see us fight for them. You know, when he threatens to fire federal employees, he has fired hundreds of thousands of federal employees all year. That's what we've been watching. At some point, we got to stand up and say, It's enough. The American people want us to fight, to reduce costs to them, to make sure that they can get access to health care. You know, Republicans have, like in the past, threatened these shutdowns, say this is the time to do it. I don't think that there's a more important issue for the people of America that when you are sick, you need to be able to get the medical care that you need, be able to afford your medicine. We are in a crisis, there is no question. And I have always believed, spent my life fighting for access to health care for all.
All right, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Historically, a government shutdown has had a bigger impact on politics than on the economy, but this time it could be very different.
That's right, CNN senior reporter Matt Egan is here. So Matt, explain to our viewers, why is this shutdown, why could it be different than previous ones?
Well, Wolf and Pamela, the stakes just seem so much higher this time around, in part because the economy, it looks more vulnerable than in prior government shutdowns, especially the job market. But it's also the fact that the Trump administration really raised the stakes with that unusual threat last week to carry out mass layoffs of federal workers in a shutdown. Now, keep in mind, the government is already rapidly shrinking its workforce. The number of federal government employees is down by 97,000 just since the end of January. And that doesn't even count workers who took buyouts but are still on the payroll at least until tomorrow. Now, it's possible that that mass layoff threat is just a negotiating tactic. But economists say if it actually happened, it could do real damage to the economy because it would be contributing to an already rising unemployment rate. And former Biden economist Jared Bernstein, he told me that it's not just bad economics. He said it's profoundly unfair to federal workers. He said this is running over innocent bystanders. It's not their fault. You can't keep the lights on. Now, a shutdown would also leave investors and policymakers in the dark when it comes to the state of the U.S. economy. That's because key economic reports that are scheduled for release, some of them will not come out if there's a government shutdown, including the all-important monthly jobs report that the Bureau of Labor Statistics was scheduled to release on Friday, but that won't come out if there's a government shutdown. Also, there's a pair of inflation reports due out in the next 2 weeks. Those reports are also in doubt if there's a prolonged government shutdown. And so that means that Federal Reserve officials meeting at the end of the month, they could be flying blind when they're trying to decide whether or not to lower interest rates. Now, because there may not be a jobs report on Friday, there's been more attention paid to new data out this morning on the state of the labor market. This data shows that the number of job openings, it ticked higher during the month of August, but it does remain low, much lower than it was at this point of calendar in previous years. A lot of bosses, they just seem uncertain right now. They're apprehensive to hire, and it's hard to see how a prolonged government shutdown would help matters. Back to you.
All right, Matt Egan reporting for us. Matt, thank you very much, and we'll be right back.
This fall, the rich story of New Orleans continues. Uncover what drives the music, the food, and the traditions of a city shaped by the past and living for the moment. The CNN original series, New Orleans, Soul of the City, premieres Sunday at 10 on CNN.
And sold to Carvana.
Ugh, what's wrong, John?
I set aside a week to sell my car, Clarence.
They pick it up tomorrow and they pay me on the spot. What am I supposed to do with all this time?
Visit a museum?
All week.
Learn Italian?
Ho venduto la mia macchina a Carvana.
What are we gonna do?
Sell your car to Carvana today.
No matter what kind of home you're looking for, it's waiting for you on Redfin. And when you find it, see it before anyone else. Book a showing right now only on Redfin. Find your dream home on Redfin, powered by Rocket.
It still feels like he's gonna walk right in and sit down for dinner. I even made his favorite this week. Are you okay, Mom? Are you sure you're ready to do this again so soon? Honey, there's no place I'd rather be right now.